Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Let's run with the 9-game NBA slate for today on DraftKings. Pretty exciting slate tonight, so I am looking forward to it. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. And also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. And if you're interested in the spreadsheets about every single night for the NBA season, as well as my Discord chat, my projections, cheat sheets, core plays, defense versus position chart, all the statistics I use, everything is color-coded, nice and neat. Links in the description below for my Patreon. Without further ado, let's get into today's slate. So, James Harden, I'm personally going to pass on James Harden. If you want to stack that game up, I totally get it. Lakers versus Houston, 232.5 point over-under. Going to be a pretty fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to just watching it. Just from a fan perspective, it's going to be a very good game. But I would prefer the two Lakers studs here. Now, if they're both in, they're fine. But if Anthony Davis is out, we pretty much have to come close to locking in LeBron. And there's enough value to do so on this slate. We have quite a few really good value plays. So if you want to fit in LeBron, I totally understand it. So we'll bring him up. And it's a really good matchup here versus Houston. And I will say, he's actually been pretty disappointing with these last two games that Anthony Davis has been out versus Cleveland and Orlando. Kind of just, bad teams. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't trying as hard. I have no idea. I don't get it. I mean, he had 19 assists in the last game, which is insane, but he only had 19 real-life points, 3 boards, and he only had 2 boards in the last game versus Cleveland. It's kind of not like LeBron. He's more of a triple-double threat every single night, but I'm going to give him a pass, and he should be pretty juiced up to play this game versus Houston. This is actually a big, important game. I mean, versus Cleveland, Orlando, who really cares? Although they did lose to Orlando, which is kind of crazy, but this is a pretty big game versus Houston. Big Western. I was going to say the Western Conference Finals game. Big Western Conference game. So I am looking forward to it. But LeBron, he should be a pretty good play if Anthony Davis happens to be out. 232 total with Houston being 2.5 point favorites at home. So it should be a pretty tight back and forth game. High scoring game as well. And we also get a nice pace up spot for LA as Houston is 4th in pace of play while the Lakers are, I believe, 15th. And Houston, they're pretty awful defensively versus guards and forwards, whatever you want to call LeBron. He pretty much plays every position on the court. He's listed as a point guard / small forward. If you want to just go by those exact positions, Houston is bottom 10 versus point guards, and they're like bottom 3 versus small forwards. So either way you want to cut it, LeBron is an excellent play tonight, and with no Anthony Davis, 38% usage rate, about 1.7 points per minute, he should be a pretty good play tonight, and there's enough value to do so if Anthony Davis happens to be out again. If they're both in, they're kind of just okay plays, but if AD is out, you can definitely look LeBron's way. Trae Young, probably going to pass on Trae Young tonight. I'd rather play Andre Drummond in the same game. So, although I do like Trae Young versus Detroit just because Detroit really struggles with guards. But personally, I don't see myself going that way. Like, if Anthony Davis happened to play tonight, I'd rather play Anthony Davis if there was no minutes limit versus Houston than Trae Young at the same price versus Detroit. So, but let's go talk about Andre Drummond at 9,500. And I want to apologize in advance for when he burns us all and plays like 20 minutes and gets 14 fantasy points. But he should be pretty good play tonight at 9,500 versus Atlanta. It's been a rough 3 games here for Andre Drummond. Last game was okay versus Boston. He had 46 points, but 36 points versus New Orleans. Then 19 points versus Chicago. I think we all have a pretty sour taste in our mouth about Andre Drummond right now, but he should eat Atlanta up. There's no reason he can't. They're the worst defensive team in the NBA, and they're ranked 23rd versus centers. Big men just eat up Atlanta every single night almost. There's also a big pace-up spot, too, for the Detroit Pistons, as Atlanta is 5th in pace of play, while Detroit is 23rd. So we have a nice pace-up spot. We have a 230 over-under here with only a 1.5 point spread in Detroit's favor. So this sets up perfect for fantasy. You should see a full complement of minutes here, anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes, and he's at 1.4 points per minute on the season. I think we can get a 20-20 game out of Andre Drummond as long as he's actually playing well. Because I mean, there's just sometimes Andre Drummond goes out there and he just does not look that great. I remember the one game versus New Orleans a couple games ago. It was reported that he actually asked the coach to not let him back in the game because he was just getting abused by Jahlil Okafor. So. But if he gets 35 plus minutes versus Atlanta at 9,500, he should be a pretty excellent play. And I would say he's one of my favorite spend-ups on the entire slate. So I do like Andre Drummond. I'll probably go back to the well here, unfortunately, but I think he should have a pretty good game. Damian LILLARD, he's one of the best plays on the slate. He's going to be the cover picture on this video, which tends to be a kiss of death sometimes. Although Donovan Mitchell was the last cover photo. No, that wasn't the last cover photo. Well, whenever Donovan Mitchell, I think it was 2 games ago, or 2 days ago, I should say. Donovan Mitchell was the cover photo. He ended up scoring like 60-some points. So not a kiss of death recently. But Damian Lillard liked him quite a bit. And like I said, one of the easiest plays on the slate considering CJ McCollum should be out for this game. He rolled his ankle last night and left. And I feel like there's no way he plays tonight in the back-to-back. So you can definitely fire up a pretty cheap Damian Lillard. It's just kind of funny how DraftKings pricing works. I know they didn't know that McCollum was going to be out once, because this was a late game of the night. This was the latest game of the night yesterday. Pricing was already out, but it's just funny how it works sometimes. Like Lillard's been close to 9K recently. Now McCollum's out. Now he's 8,200. And that's not DraftKings' fault. They didn't know. It's just funny how it works sometimes. But expect him to be extreme chalk tonight. And with CJ McCollum off the court, Damian Lillard has a 33% usage rate at 1.3 points per minute. Matchup versus OKC isn't great, but it doesn't really matter just because that CJ McCollum is out. So he's an awesome play. And the last time McCollum was out was versus Miami, a really tough matchup. Damian Lillard dropped over 60 fantasy points. So matchup doesn't really matter here. He's an elite player. And actually, OKC is kind of mid-pack versus point guard. So Lillard, 8,200, one of the best plays on the entire slate. I'll be looking to lock him in no matter what. Scrolling down a little bit, HASSAN Whiteside, he's also going to get a bump with CJ McCollum off the court. Pretty much every starter does. Carmelo Anthony doesn't really see too much of a boost, but Whiteside, he will get an upgrade here, and he actually balled out last night versus Dallas. He had 57 points, almost had a 20-20 game, 21 points, 18 boards, 5 blocks. He's always getting those blocks too, which makes him a really nice safe play. I mean, 5 blocks, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 2 blocks, worth 2 points. Always helps the stats. Always helps. I'm sorry if I'm blinking a lot. My eyes are really bothering me. I don't know if you guys are watching my eyes. It's really annoying to me. But either way, HASSAN Whiteside like him quite a bit here. With no CJ McCollum on the court, he's at 1.43 points per minute. And if the game's competitive, he should see about 35 minutes. He saw 37 minutes versus Houston and 36 minutes versus Dallas. So there's no reason to think he won't do the same here tonight in a competitive game. Now, it is a back-to-back, but it doesn't matter. I think it'll be fine. And now, like I said, if he gets about 35 minutes, he should grade as one of the better point per dollar options on the day. And for me, he's rating as a pretty darn good value at 7,900. That's just way too cheap for a guy like HASSAN Whiteside with his upside. With CJ McCollum on the court, he's still at 1.37 points per minute. So, I mean, I'd play him even if CJ McCollum was playing tonight. So taking CJ McCollum off the court, guy with a 28% usage rate, about a point per minute. HASSAN Whiteside 7,900. I think he's an awesome play. So, I mean, there's a lot of good plays that don't break the bank tonight, like Lillard, he's only 8,200, Whiteside 7,900, Andre Drummond's at 9,500, and with all the value, I'm able to fit in LeBron as well. I don't try to build lineups until like an hour before lock, just because it's pointless with all the injury news. But I think that's definitely a good way to start your lineups tonight with guys like Whiteside, Lillard, and Andre Drummond, and then pending on LeBron if Anthony Davis is in or out. So. And OKC, they're actually pretty good defensively, but like I said, they do struggle a little bit with point guards, and they struggle a little bit with big men, and HASSAN Whiteside has played pretty well versus OKC this season, so I do like Whiteside quite a bit, where I think he's one of the better plays on tonight's slate. Not my favorite play, but Kevin Love's going up against Chicago, and we know how bad Chicago is defensively. If the game's competitive, he'll see about 35 minutes. The past 4 games, 38 minutes, 37, 33, 34. Should be a pretty close game versus Chicago, and they are dead last versus power forwards and centers, so you could certainly look his way. I think he's a safe bet for about 35-plus fantasy points tonight versus Chicago. Price is up there a little bit, which is why I say he's not one of my favorite plays on the slate, because Mulgray has a great point per dollar option, but I think he's fine in GPPs. Tobias Harris's price came down, thankfully. He was way too expensive at 8,300, and he definitely did not replicate his performance versus Brooklyn. He only had 26 points versus Chicago. Had a very rough outing, 5 for 12 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Definitely not a good day, but his price did come down. Now he's traveling to New York. Again, Joel Embiid's off the court. You could certainly look his way. He's got the highest usage rate on the team without Joel Embiid on, and he's also at 1.2 points per minute. So you could look his way as a mid-range play, although I prefer him when he's in that 6K range. 7,600 is still a little bit too expensive for me, but he's pretty much a safe bet for about 35 points, if not more. So Tobias Harris is fine, but I don't absolutely love him on today's slate. Mitchell, I was on him. I was all over him versus New Orleans, but I'm going to take I'll take a pass here versus Sacramento. Although his price didn't really move much. Kemba Walker, so my original notes had that Jaylen Brown was questionable, but he's now been ruled out, so you could certainly look Kemba Walker's way. And he had a fantastic game last time versus Milwaukee. 38 minutes, 4 for 11 from deep, 62 fantasy points, had hit 14 shots. And I will say, I can never, ever get this guy right, but this is a fair price for him, and with Jaylen Brown off the court, 30.3% usage rate, 1.28 points per minute with Brown off. So the numbers are very good. It's a nice up-tempo matchup versus Phoenix. They're 22nd versus point guards. The Celtics have 116 point applied team total. You could certainly look Kemba Walker's way. I think he's one of the better mid-range plays on today's slate. You could also look at Al Horford, 7,200. Price came down a little bit from the last game, but he's just a very consistent player. And his price pretty much has been staying around the same in this high 6K, low 7K range. And without Joel Embiid, numbers are pretty similar to Tobias Harris. Over a 20% usage rate, 1.2 points per minute. He's just a very, very safe bet for about 35 fantasy points every single night. I mean, past 4 games, 37, 39, 33, 38. No one's really complaining about those numbers. You're not over the moon excited, but you're not complaining either. He does a little bit of everything in the stat sheet, so he's not just scoring dependent. He'll do the rebounds, the assists, and the points. And he actually had 20 points in the last game. He's going to shoot threes. He's going to play 30-plus minutes. Al Horford's one of those safe plays every single night. Decent matchup versus New York as well. You could also look at Chris Paul. He's at 7K. Actually, let me talk about Jayson Tatum first. So, without Jaylen Brown on the court, Tatum becomes a pretty darn good play. Like I said, Boston's got 116 team total at home versus Phoenix. It's a nice fast-paced matchup versus a pretty bad defensive team. And with no Brown, he's got a 32% usage rate, nearly 1.3 points per minute, played 40 minutes in the last game. I think he's a pretty solid play. The guy's got 60-point upside. We saw it versus New Orleans. So, I mean, it's more of an outlier game, but still had a very fantastic game. And no Jaylen Brown definitely sees a boost here, so you could certainly look Jayson Tatum's way. I think he's a very, very solid play at 7,100. Lots of good mid-range plays on today's slate, and there's some good value plays as well. So, shaping up to be a pretty solid slate, in my opinion, from a roster construction point of view. Chris Paul and SGA are fine. They're kind of the same plays. It's a good matchup versus Portland. They rank 26th versus... I believe it's 26 versus point guards. It's a little bit of a pace-up spot. I will say 2 of the last 4 games have been a little bit disappointing, 26 points and 20 points, but it's just a good matchup versus Portland, playing against his old buddy Carmelo Anthony. He's fine. He's not a guy I'm like over the moon ecstatic about. I'd rather play Jayson Tatum for sure, but he's fine. SGA could pretty much say the same thing about SGA. Scrolling down a little bit, Gallinari. So I actually played Gallinari last night, and it was not in the plans all night, but I ended up having 6,300 last night? Yeah, I had 6,300 left in the small forward spot, and I wanted to play Jimmy Butler, but I couldn't afford Jimmy Butler, so I was like, well, Gallinari or Carmelo Anthony. And I actually don't remember what Carmelo Anthony finished with, but I don't think it was 45 points, but I was very, very happy about Gallinari. He was 11%, ended up giving me a pretty good night, scored about 300 points. Although the one guy that screwed me was Pascal Siakam, man. I was the only guy that didn't do good in my lineup. Pascal Siakam at 23 fantasy points. Absolutely sucked. But Gallinari, man, he had a fantastic day. He hit 7 threes, shot 12 of them. Just had a good day all around. 6 boards, 4 assists, 27 points, 45 fantasy points. He's pretty much a safe bet for over 30 fantasy points every single night. He's going to play 30-plus minutes. And, he's going to shoot a lot of threes. It's a good matchup versus Portland. He's going to be good. He's going to be being guarded by Carmelo Anthony, who we all know is not a very good defender. He's got 24.3% usage rate. He's over a point per minute. I think Gallinari's a fine play at 6,600. Pretty good matchup versus Portland. Tristan Thompson, he actually got ejected last night because he slapped Jay Crowder on the butt. So Cleveland's been having some spanking issues lately with Odell and Tristan Thompson, but pretty good matchup down low versus Chicago. Past 2 games have been trash for Tristan Thompson, 10 points and 18 points. Also, Tristan Thompson got ejected, and now the Clippers, they got blown out there. But, if he should see about 33, 35 minutes in this game, if not more. It's a really good matchup versus Chicago down low. They're ranked 30th versus centers. He's fine. It's just, I don't love it, but he's okay. It's a really good matchup, though. Let's see. Where's Gordon Hayward? I know he's around here somewhere. Or is he cheaper than I thought he was? Yeah, he's 6K. So this is a really good price. So you definitely got to have interest here without Jaylen Brown on the court. This is a little bit too cheap. I mean, 65, 62, 63, 64, but now he's down to 6K. He sucked in the last game. He had 7 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, but I'm willing to forgive him. I didn't play him, but if you guys play him, be willing to forgive him. Jaylen Brown's off. 6K is a little bit too cheap here versus Phoenix. Nice pace-up spot. He's nearly 1.1 points per minute with him off the court. He's going to play 30-plus minutes. Got over about a 23% usage rate. He's fine at 6K. I mean, he's going to grab as a pretty good option. Let's see. He's going on the list. Don't really like a lot of these guys. We might have to skip to... I think we're going to skip to Marvin Bagley. I don't really like anyone in this price range too much. So Marvin Bagley, he actually comes in at 5,100, and that's just a bit too cheap for a guy that's going to see probably about 30 to 33 minutes in tonight's game. And he's recently returning from the injury. I mean, he hasn't been great, 29 and 21, but I mean, he's fine at 5,100. I mean, his price dropped from 5,800 to 5,700 to 5,100, and he's got 27% usage rate, over a point per minute. Not a great matchup, but he should pretty easily pay off this price tag. I know for me, he's running out as one of the better value plays on the entire slate. I shouldn't say value plays, but he's going to grade out as one of the better point per dollar options on the slate at 5,100. I know most sites probably would project that as well. So Marvin Bagley, I think he's a very good play on tonight's slate. Probably someone I'm probably going to fit in my main lineup. Not totally sure yet, but definitely on my radar. Mike Conley, he comes in at 4,400, and that's just, again, he's a little bit too cheap. Another guy that's going to be returning from injury tonight. He is listed as probable. Hasn't played since December 17th, but should be good to go tonight. And he might have a minutes limit yet. I haven't read anything on the minutes limit yet, but if we're just conservative and project him for 25 minutes, he's a 0.9 point per minute guy. So I'd say he's a safe bet for at least close to 25 fantasy points at 4,400. He's a good player too. Not my favorite guy to roster, but at 4,400, I would definitely take a stab there. So, and it's an okay matchup versus Sacramento. They're kind of mid-pack to lower versus guard. So Mike Conley's not a bad play at 4,400. Definitely a nice source of salary relief. And then we have the easiest value play on the night, and that's going to be Simons here at 3,100. He is basically min price if I can find him. Whoops. Okay, yeah. So 3,100, Anfernee Simons. So he played 28 minutes last night, had 22 fantasy points, and his price actually dropped. And again, that's not on DraftKings because they didn't know CJ McCollum was going to get hurt, but he is hurt. So pretty much the easiest value play of the night. He's going to project for over 7x in most projection systems. He does for me as well. And, with CJ McCollum at the court, he's got a 20% usage rate, 0.7 points per minute, which is not great, but at 3K, it's pretty much great, 3,100. It's not a great matchup, but I don't really care. He's going to see about 30 minutes. 3,100, that's just way too cheap. So Simon's definitely someone that's going to be on my radar. I expect him to be one of the highest owned players on tonight's slate. And before we get out of here, we got to talk about my sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. So OverlayDFS.com, it's a very simple DFS website. It's basically just a pick'em website. If you think LeBron's going to score more points than James Harden tonight, you pick LeBron. If you think Anthony Davis is going to outscore Karl Anthony Towns, you pick Davis. If you like Drummond over Trae Young, pick Andre Drummond. So it's pretty much as simple as that. There's a list of, I'm not sure exactly how many options, but you only pick 12. You pick your 12 favorite matchups. So whatever ones you think you get the biggest edges on, you can do so. And if you're looking at, if you need projections to be able to figure this out, I do have my own projection. It's what I use to help use my picks on OverlayDFS.com. And it's a pretty fun, simple website. There's no sharks here. There's no guys like Chipotle or Papa Gates on here. You don't have to worry about that. No lineup trains or anything like that. You don't have to worry about any salary cap issues. It's just a very simple start-em, sit-em kind of website. And the buy-in, this one's a $22 buy-in, the Double Deuce contest, and the top 10% of the entries win. And if that means if you win, you 9x your money. So $22 will get you $180. And if you happen to have a 12-0 record, you can win a $6,000 jackpot. It's as simple as that. Not trying to make it sound like it's easy, because obviously it's not, because the jackpot keeps rising. But if you happen to go 12-0 in your picks, I've been close a couple times, you will win a $6,000 jackpot. And they do pay out pretty quick. I got my money. So I did win one of the Double Deuces recently, and they paid me out in less than 24 hours on PayPal. So it's very simple, very quick, very nice website. I wouldn't recommend the website to you guys that I haven't played on before, and I do enjoy it. So check out OverlayDFS.com. Very fun website to play on, very fun to sweat out the games, and it's as simple as it sounds. You just pick. So if you like LeBron over James Harden, you pick LeBron. It's as simple as that. And also, they're running a Slump Buster challenge where if you lose 20 days in a row, they will personally refund all of your money. So they're basically daring you to lose 20 days in a row, and you will get a full refund. Check it out. They have other contests as well as the Double Deuce. They have the Pee Wee where it's only a $2 entry. You can multi-enter that as well. Again, no sharks, no salary cap issues. So if you want to check it out, it's OverlayDFS.com. I put a link in the description below, but I don't want my YouTube channel getting banned for a week from having a DFS or gambling site in the description. So check it out. That's OverlayDFS.com if you want to play another fantasy website. That's a pretty simple way to go. It's more of a casual environment than DraftKings and FanDuel is. Trust me, I love DraftKings and I don't really play FanDuel, but love DraftKings. So but it's also kind of fun to expand that into other more simple sites like overlaydfs.com. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. Also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and I'll see you guys in the next video.